Surprise, 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 ladies and gentlemen. Surprise, 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 ladies and gentlemen. And welcome yet again to another What Really Matters NYC, live in New York every Wednesday at 8 p.m. But tonight we're on at 9 p.m. And the reason we're on at 9 p.m. is because they moved us an hour because of some political shows they were showing, which was really good, actually. I've got, Lorraine, are you there? We've got our commentator, Lorraine, on the line, and we've got Dave Cicerelli. Is that how I say your last name, Dave?
Very good.
Excellent. How are you doing? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, no, I can hear you great. Thank you for having me.
No worries. I was wondering if we could move Dave a little bit over to the other side where the graphics are, and I'll sit over here and I can see him better. There you go. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, the reason we have Dave on the show is because, and the topic of the show is Banksy. Is it art or graffiti? And if you're not familiar with this topic, there's a graffiti artist, a very famous one, whose name is Banksy, and there's kind of a theory that it's not really him. He's Mr. Brainwash, which is another guy, and there's a movie, and it got all confused. But there's this elusive, mysterious Mr. Banksy who runs around New York and paints graffiti on places. And he's come to New York City lately, and he's been irking Mayor Bloomberg. In fact, Mr. Bloomberg said, look, graffiti does ruin people's property, and it's a sign of decay and loss of control. Art is art, and nobody's a bigger supporter of the art than I am. I just think there are some places for art, and there are some places not for art. And so, if you're not familiar with the Banksy story, he actually set up kind of a mysterious booth in Central Park a weekend ago, or 2 weekends ago, and he tried to sell some of his original paintings to tourists walking by in Central Park, and at $60 a pop, and he got few takers. I think these, generally speaking, sell for much, much more, like in the tens of thousands of dollars. And then a week later, a booth offering quote-unquote fake Banksys at the same price sold out in just 1 hour. And that booth was run by no other than our guest, Dave. So I wanted to welcome you to our show, Dave. And we've got here Facebook.com. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Or Facebook Friends, is that what?
Yeah, Facebook.com, I think is what I've got there.
It's Facebook Friends. This is not the first time I've done a hoax. I'm going to shamelessly plug the book that I just have published called Fake Book, A True Story Based on Actual Lies. And that was actually a social media hoax that I pulled off. I think Fake Banksy and Fake Book are very related because it's all about personas, right? I mean, as you said yourself, Banksy, no one exactly knows who he is, and there's all sorts of rumors swirling around. And I'm of the opinion it almost doesn't matter. I mean, the most interesting rumor I heard is that he's not a real person, that he's a project, that he's sort of a art-directed persona. And I'm kind of the opinion it doesn't matter. I mean, Banksy, Tiger Woods, Batman, they're all as real to me because, I don't actually meet them, I don't actually know them. And with Fake Book, I kind of realized that social media has turned us all into public personas. We all have a public image, and we sort of curate that image and present it, and it's not quite exactly who we are. So what I did with Fake Book was I took that idea and I ran with it, and I just started to fictionalize my own life in an increasingly absurd and hard-to-believe way. And this was all done in secret with some very, very bad Photoshop. And the real-world fallout of this completely fictional life that I was pretending to live, it became kind of an interesting lens to view everyone's social media experience.
Well, let me ask you something about the fake Banksy sale. I don't know if we can run the video in the background. And Lorraine, you jump in where you want to here. We don't have our guest for very long tonight, but when you set up your first of all, are you Banksy by the way?
Well, until Banksy himself comes out of the shadows and denies it, I'll gladly take credit and his sales.
Okay, so here's we're running the video that you've got up on the internet of your booth that you set up. I guess that's on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah, exactly. It was 59th and the southeast corner of the park.
So when people bought these quote unquote fake Banksys from you, were they? I mean, apparently you sold out in an hour. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience? How they were, how you felt sitting there with these people who were buying something just because it was a fake?
Yeah, it was insane. I called up Lance Pilgrim was my partner in the Fake Banksy project, and it was actually his father who was the salesman, and we didn't even set up. We didn't have a chance to set up. Our cameraman George Gross, who edited that film, missed a lot of great footage because quite literally, the moment we lifted up the canvases, a crowd formed, and it was a frenzy. There was one guy, I mean, Upper East Side is obviously a pretty wealthy part of town. There was a guy with a pocket square, what I like to call a gentleman's mustache, and he pulled out $100 bill that he just had on him and bought a spray painting of a rat. And that was pretty magical. You know, it just goes to show you what the hype of Banksy did. And I want to be clear, we were completely upfront that these were fake. In fact, every painting came with a certificate of inauthenticity that was legally notarized, proving that we were not selling Banksies.
Wow. Lorraine, do you have any comments or questions on all of this?
Well, I've seen a little bit of the artwork. I haven't seen that much of it, but what I have seen, I have not been that impressed with. I am impressed with the way he has marketed himself, though.
Well, that's a good point, and that kind of gets to our...
If you think about it, really, kind of art he's doing really is not art. Graffiti art is really an oxymoron.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Lorraine. I don't know if you move closer to your base station, but I think you brought up the question that the show is, is it art or is it graffiti? And Bloomberg kind of sidestepped that very cleverly by saying, even if it is art, that's not the right place to put it. And I was just wondering, Dave, what's your opinion on that? Because, we're sort of in the last months of Mayor Bloomberg, and I was just wondering what you thought of him sort of picking out that topic and they spent a lot of money going with a gentleman with a sander to kind of take away the Banksy quote unquote art graffiti on different places in New York City, where we still have children living in poverty. 30% of children in New York City live in poverty. What is your thought on that whole sort of other spin? I mean, you're making a spin, Banksy makes a spin, but even Mr. Bloomberg is making a spin.
Well, and that's what makes it interesting, and I think it is both. I think on one hand, Banksy's tour of New York is his, quote, residency, and the other hand, it's also a crime wave. I mean, there's no question it's illegal, it costs the city money. But part of what I think was so brilliant about what he originally did with his stand, which speaks exactly to what you said about it being marketing, was he sort of undercut the value of his own art. He showed that without hype and without the context of people expecting to see something of value, he couldn't sell his paintings. And that's what I thought was so brilliant about what he did, and what's sort of so relevant about Banksy is not necessarily the paintings itself, but the way he sort of treats media as his canvas, and the way he manipulates public perception to sort of turn in on itself. And that's why what we did was so successful, and that was a lot of why Lance and I did what we did, was to sort of complete that point, to complete that loop.
Wow. Dave, that's a fantastic analysis.
The marketing twist really is artistic.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. It's all about perception. Art is about expression and making people see things in a new way or feel things about things that have no objective value. It's not like water when you're thirsty. Art is, art is interesting because its cultural value is truly indescribable. I mean, it is what makes us human, is the fact that we express ourselves. But the individual artworks itself is almost the purest form of capitalism. It's worth exactly what someone is willing to pay.
How interesting. Or not pay in the case.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, Dave, we want to thank you very much. We're going to open the phones. We're going to let you go, and we're going to move on with our show. But I want to thank you very much. For folks who want to look up I think I've got the wrong site up here, so I apologize. What site should they go to?
Fake book with a K, yep. Friends.com.
Okay, so
that's where the blog is, that has the video as well as photos and our take, and that's also the home site for my book, Fake Book, A True Story Based on Actual Lies. Where again, I took this sort of prankster-ish hoaxes lens and I put it on social media.
All right. Well, Dave, listen, thanks so much, and we look forward to reading your book. And ladies and gentlemen, There you have it. Dave, thanks for joining us, all right?
Hey, thanks so much.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.